Morse. I'm teaching lesson number 5. Okay, we're going to start today with a review of all of the things that we've already done. So we're going to start with the pen strategy. Who can remember what the P stands for?
Pick a strategy.
Yes, pick a formula. Very good. And how about the E?
Explore words.
Good. And the N?
No words.
Yes. And Andrea, how about S?
Search and check.
Good. And now we're going to move on to the mark on the strategy, or the search and check strategy. And I have that one here. Who can tell me, Matt, how about what does M stand for?
It stands for mark out the imposters.
Good. And Ann, what does A stand for?
Ask, is there a verb?
Perfect. And Andrea, what's the R stand for?
Root out the subject.
And the K, Matt?
Key on the beginning, middle, and, beginning, ending, and meaning.
Perfect. And next, we're going to go over the 5 requirements of a sentence. Who can remember one of them? Raise your hand.
Verb.
Good. It has to have a verb.
Have a subject.
Yes, a subject.
Capital letter.
Yes, starts with a capital letter. We had verb, subject, capital letter, so we need 2 more. And
Punctuation.
punctuation at the end, and then there's one more requirement.
Does it make sense?
Yes, does it make sense? And now we're gonna go over again, what is the definition of a verb? Does anyone remember?
It's like an action word.
Yep, it has an action word, or it has a
Linking.
state of being, or we call that a linking verb. The definition of an action verb. Who knows what that would be?
It's something you can do.
Right, it shows the action of our subject. And what are examples of action verbs?
Run, eat, sing.
Eat,
Play.
play. Good, those are great. And now we're gonna go on to the definition of a linking verb. What is the definition of a linking verb?
Where does it link the subject to another word and that describes the subject?
You're right, good job. And who can remember some of the linking verbs?
Was.
Good, that's one. Is, that's another one.
Be.
Be, good. The other ones are am, are, been, become. What's the definition of a subject?
What the sentence is about.
Yeah, it is the person, the place, the thing, the quality, or the idea of the sentence. And what are examples of subjects?
People.
People, yeah.
The book.
A book, that's a good one. And you gotta, can you think of one, Matt?
An idea.
An idea, yeah, what kind of idea?
Like.
Maybe is peace?
Sure.
Yeah.
Peace is a great idea. That's a subject. Or love.
Love, peace, good. And we just talked about this. What is the definition of an infinitive?
Something with the word to and then a verb that follows.
You're right. It usually has 2 words and it's followed by an action verb. An example of an infinitive would be
To eat.
yes, to eat,
To dance.
to dance,
To drive.
to drive. Very good. Those are all great examples. And now the last review thing before we go on to what we're actually doing is why would we need to eliminate infinitives before we look for a verb? Now, yesterday we wrote it in our notes. It's not in here, but so if you would refer back to your notes, why might you eliminate the infinitive before you?
So you know what the real verb is.
Correct, that is right. And so today yesterday we talked about marking out the M, or not marking out the imposters. So what does the M stand for in marking, what does the M stand for?
Mark out imposters.
Mark out imposters, that's right. And yesterday we talked about marking out infinitives. And I'm going to, in your cue cards, if you want to turn to cue cards, if you want to refer to this, I already have it in your binder here. It's after the linking verbs. So, what's the kind of imposter we learned about yesterday? Can you point to it on your search and check? And what is it?
Infinitives.
Good, that's right. So sometimes the verb in the infinitive is mistaken for the main verb of the sentence. Today we're going to learn how to find and mark out another kind of imposter, one that we might mistake for the subject of the sentence. So as we learn about this new kind of imposter, you will need to participate. Later you will be completing the learning sheets so that you can show the understanding of the information. Sometimes there are words for people, places, and things in the sentences that are not the subject of the sentence. I'm going to write this sentence on the board, and I want to show you what I mean. So, I'm going to write the sentence, the ball rolled into the street. If I weren't really thinking very clearly, you might see the word street and think it might be the subject of the sentence. Would you be right? Is street the subject of the sentence? No. Why is street not the subject of the sentence?
It's not rolling.
Right, because you had to ask yourself who or what rolled. And does the street roll?
No.
No, that doesn't make sense. So the ball is the subject, and that's what's rolling. So that's why we mark out imposters. So good job. So to help us avoid this mistake, we need to be able to identify prepositional phrases. So look under the M, mark out the imposters, and you'll see prepositional phrases. So that's our next step. So we're going to define prepositional phrase now. So in your binders, you can take a pencil and we're going to write notes. And we're going to define what a prepositional phrase is. So a prepositional phrase is a group of words that show place or time. So a prepositional phrase, or I guess I should say, prepositional phrases are groups of words that show place or time. So you need to put that in your notes. Each prepositional phrase contains a preposition and at least one person, place, or thing word. In our example over here, into is the preposition and the street is the whole prepositional phrase. So I'm going to say that again. Into is our preposition. Into the street is our prepositional phrase. And when you're writing a sentence, we're going to cross it out and put a P on the top. And that's how we'll know what our prepositional phrase is. Into is one preposition, but there are many, many others. And I'm going to show you the bee flies in the bottle. And this can go under your cue cards and your binders. So the bee flies in the bottle. and it shows you all the different, if you have the sentence, a bee flies blank the bottle, you can take any of these words, and if it makes sense, that's a preposition. So today, I brought along Tiny, the Triceratops, from my house. And we're gonna make some prepositions with Tiny. So I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna say, Tiny is on the box. And now, using your bee flies in the bottle sheet, I want you to pick a different word and say how tiny is in relation to the box. So Anne, I'm gonna give Tiny to you and see if you can come up with a prepositional phrase for tiny. And you can use your sheet.
Okay, tiny. Is it flies? Or tiny is? Tiny
Like,
is
you would use any of
behind the box.
Yeah.
Tiny is under the box.
Very good.
Tiny moves from the box.
Good. Those are all prepositional phrases. Goodbye, Tiny. So we just made up some of our own prepositional phrases, and that you guys did a great job on that. Some prepositions, though, don't show location, and they're not going to be listed on our bee in the bottle. So I have another list called prepositions, and they're listed in alphabetical order. And these are also prepositions to help us decide if it's a prepositional phrase. They're words like of, with, at, for, during, and without. You can use this list to find out whether or not a word is a preposition. So now let's discuss. When did we learn something about the word to? Yes, infinitives. They always have two words, and to is the first one. So good job. Thus, looking for the word to is really helpful. It finds us imposters. Every time we do the M part of our search and check step, we need to look for to first, because there are prepositional phrases that have to in them as well. So that's going to help us mark out all the infinitives and some of the prepositional phrases. Then we can look for other words on this alphabetical list that I just gave you. And let's start out with an example. So now that we know a little bit about prepositional phrases, let's use the pen strategy. Or you know what? I'm going to use the pen strategy to come up with a sentence, and we're going to pick out the prepositional phrase. So I'm going to pick a formula, and I'm going to pick the subject-verb formula. I'm going to explore words that I want to write about. I'm going to talk about my brother Joe and that he swam in a lake. So I'm going to note those words and put them in the right sentence. So I'm going to write Joe swam in the lake. Right. Now we're going to use the S from the pens, the search and check, to help us figure out. So what's our first step that we need to do?
Mark out imposters.
Yes, mark out the imposters. Are there any to? Is there the word to in our sentence?
No.
No. So we know that there's no to, there's no infinitive. So what's next?
Prepositional phrases.
Yep, prepositional phrases. So let's refer to our sheet, the one in alphabetical order. Is Joe on our sheet?
No.
No, Joe is not a preposition or a prepositional phrase. How about swam? Is swam on our list of prepositions?